Hello and welcome to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview, and our special segment, Coffee on Sunday. Gone are the days of STD calls. Gone are the days of booking a trunk call through the MTNL. Gone are the days when getting a telephone connection was a dream. Also gone are the days when Rajan Bharti Mittal took 2 tempo loads of boxes to the Sanchar Bhavan to get a license. All that has changed, and changed for the better. Today, Airtel is not only a major player but also a household name. We talked to Rajan Bharti Mittal on the then and now in this edition of Coffee on Sunday. Rajan Mittal with us here today. Welcome to the show, Rajan Bharti Mittal, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Kumkum.
Let me begin with a story. You don't like anyone changing the rules. So take me through the table tennis story.
That's many years back, but if I recollect correctly, both me and Sunil used to, represent our district, Ludhiana, where we grew up in our colleges both. And in one of the selection time, the number 1 player lost, and me and Sunil both qualified. And then the coach and the selector said, only one brother can go. And I said, well, that's not fair, and that's how selection doesn't work. You have to, not by bloodline, by the performance. But they chose not to do that. And that is the time I thought that, politics is everywhere, even when you see in the smallest issue. So I started creating a parallel players organization. So I said, well, we're not going to play with the rules that you have set up. We must define on merit, not just because somebody is chosen and somebody is favored. I mean, that's how it all started. And eventually, we had our own association. We won the elections. We got the earlier dispensation out of the system. So I always believe that, at the end of the day, it is merit that should count, and not just because somebody is a favorite or somebody needs to be pushed forward. So that's how it started. I mean, it's many, many moons back.
But this principle of wanting to do it yourself, quote unquote, is that where it began?
I think more than that, to do yourself is really not really the, point of the story. It is more to do the right thing. You need to have the right spirit. You need to have the right, mindset. And that's where, the whole organization ethos, if you will see over the years that we have grown, from young lads coming from a very small town, the ethos has been that do it the right way, do it the correct way, don't have shortcuts.
How much has family bonding helped? Because in many business empires, it is the family which probably, breaks you apart. But here the bonding seems to have, at least visibly, grown stronger by the minute, not even by the day.
We were a very small family, my parents and the 3 brothers. We grew more as friends, more than siblings. Also do recognize that we came from a political family. You saw a lot of ups and downs. That's politics for you. And eventually, as you come of age, you do recognize your strengths and weaknesses of every sibling, and then you work around it.
But has family or family bonding been a roadblock in some instances or some decisions where maybe there has been a conflict between the mind, the head and the heart?
Those things will always, individual people will have their own way of thinking. That's a given. But our principle is between us as, the siblings and all our colleagues, professional colleagues. It's just not about our minds, it's also the minds of professional colleagues who can speak their mind very freely. So once we are in a room, we can debate, we can discuss, we can disagree, but once we've all come onto the same page, once we leave that room, everybody bats for the same thing. And that's what the collective leadership takes shape.
While talking of collective leadership, somewhere the visible impression has been that it is your brother Sunil who's been the face of Airtel, and you and Rakesh, and if I may use the term, were also in the also ran category. Over the last few years that has changed. You somehow have become more visible and Sunil has gone into the background. Is that deliberate? Is it a strategy?
No, I don't think so. Every team has to have a leader. Every team has to have somebody to lead. And as the organization has grown, Sunil's visibility and Sunil's leadership is pretty much visible. And that is the right way to handle any organization which has to not only survive but thrive. It's a shared responsibility. And as you will see, be it politics, be it organizations, there will be a leader, then there's a team behind the leader. That's how we work. So I think there's nothing deliberate.
From being leaders, which you perhaps still are, how has competition affected you?
We are a product of competition. So we believe this country is large enough for many companies to thrive. For us, competition keeps us on toes and is always challenging, but that's where we probably play our best, when there's a stronger competition and a healthier competition.
But haven't there been times when competition has hit you hard?
Of course, I think that's part of the game. If you see the telecom journey since last 20 years, we've had probably twice over, which was very rocky times. We've seen competition from 2006 as lately as that. There were 13 companies. Today we are really, down to 3 companies. So clearly competition has been hit by, as we see, wave over wave of people, kind of falling. But we put our mind, put our teams, and I have to give credit to entire of our, organization, our teams. They worked so diligently, market to market, to make sure that Airtel as a brand, Airtel as a service, not only survives but actually moves into the right direction, and make sure that we stay there in the game.
And yet you say motivation, or your motivation, is when people write you off.
In a way, yes. That happens, and that motivates everybody. Me, my colleagues, everybody. It gets, you get motivated to say that we are here to stay.
Some examples of being written off.
2002 was a tough time. 2006 was probably even tougher. And sure enough, between these two, I would say, times, we were much better off in 2006. Balance sheet was much stronger. We were right up there in 2006. 2002 probably was the most difficult, if I were to say, when people thought that it's a matter of time.
Did you think, or did the company also think it was a matter of time?
We never thought that will happen. As I said, even at that time, we strongly believed that the level playing field was not there. But, whatever the pitch may be, you'll have to go and bat, and that's what we did. And so that was a very challenging period. 2006, again, it became challenging in a different way. While the brand was much stronger, the company was much stronger, balance sheet was much stronger, but one needed much more to go through the whole process of making sure that you are right up there. So I think these two events did tell us that one has to be nebulous, one has to be on his toes. You can't take it for granted, especially when the customer out there has a choice.
Do you think your father would be smiling from the heavens? Your father, who I knew personally.
I know, I'm sure he would be. He passed away in 92, and we were just starting at that time. I'm sure he would be. My mother, who has been pillar and behind the scene for the family, she always says that. My few father's friends who are still around. When I meet them, they believe it would be the case.
Your father was a well-known politician and influential. How much of his influence governed your life, and why is there very little known about your mother?
You know, the politics at that time was very different. My mom always remained, behind the scene. And, coming from a political family, it was different. We had seen power in a different way. But our parents were very clear that the children will not follow that line. And politics of that time was also different. There was no social media. There was, it was very different.
3 questions from this. One, smiling from the heavens as far as your success is concerned. But on the other hand, do you think your father would be turning in his grave looking at the state of politics? Second, you said about you and your family that we were not rich, but we came from a powerful family. Just explain that to me. And 3, that you yourself dabbled in politics while in college.
Yes, I did in the college days. I'm still a political animal, if I may call. I'm very much interested in politics, but as a student, not as part of it. We were not rich. We were an average middle-class family. But there was enough power, which, as I explained earlier, that not to be used. Don't get into things just because whose children you are. So I think that those lessons are well learnt. Make it sure that you cut the cloth accordingly and the right way.
You are now rich. Your father was powerful. Tell me about that dichotomy.
It's a difficult comparison, and I think we as a family or as an organization, we believe we are wealth creators. Rich is a very misnomer word. There are a whole lot of rich people out there, probably more rich out there. It's really not that. How you utilize your wealth. Is it for good cause? What are you doing with your wealth? Are you distributing wealth? Are you creating jobs? That's more important for us. I use a car which is now probably 8 years old car. I don't care. I have to say mode of transport. So I don't think so. The word rich, people use it differently.
Let me substitute it to saying you're wealthy.
Yeah, so we do our best to make sure that the activities that we are doing as a family, as an organization, is doing something good for the society. And CSR has come few years back, which now probably leads many companies to do stuff. We have been doing for now 20 years. We have a foundation which looks into the education of the children. We are today in almost 200 schools.
Earlier, the focus was on education, and rightly so. Now it seems to have shifted to health. Is your company doing something in that area, or are you just focused on education?
I think there's so much to do in education, and we want to be very focused on that, and that's where the organization's strength and our team's strengths are. Health is not our field. I think there are many other players who can do that better.
But with education, you have added sports and you are promoting soccer in a big way, while you yourself are a table tennis player. So 2 things. One, why soccer? And second, soccer in this cricket crazy country.
We did try, I have to be honest, we did try to promote soccer. It didn't work out. The usual political situation, you can't do this and you can do this. And we actually battled and we gave up. While this country is cricket crazy in that sense, cricket is a religion, I fully get that. I'm not into cricket. I like tennis or soccer, but we are 1.4 billion people. And why can't we not have multiple sports? And we should.
Would you like, or do you intend to add sports to your CSR along with education, or would your focus remain just and only education? And when I use the words just and only, I don't mean to trivialize education at all.
It's a question we have to ask ourselves, because if we can't make a change, that gets then not something that we want to do. Because in education, we are seeing that change. If you would ever, or a few of your colleagues would ever go to the schools that we run, you will see a dramatic change, what you will see probably in government schools. So till the time we think that we cannot make an impact, I don't think so we'll dabble into that.
Your brother Sunil once told me how he actually measured 100 acres of land with a measuring tape, physically did it, when the DDA was auctioning land. And that, he said, is a constant reminder. What is your constant reminder? Is it carrying 2 tempo loads of files to the Sanchar Bhavan?
I remember that this land was being auctioned, and in fact they auctioned it, and they said, you know, there was hardly any paper, so you could go and measure whatever you wanted to. Yeah, I think if I recollect and go back to our, you know, memories, which are not distant part, but they always remind you when you were competing the blue chip companies of that time in India as well as the foreign partners. Everybody and anybody never gave us a chance. We were not much, probably the smallest company who was making what people called an audacious bid. And rightly so, if I look back. And when we went for the bidding time, and I saw one of the companies, which is the most blue chip, I won't name, and they were carrying a small briefcase, and I was carrying 2 trunk loads. And they say, "What have you got?" And I said, "I don't know, but what have you got? I have to figure it out. Something is amiss." So clearly that, you know, told us that we were well prepared beyond actually. And I've had this conversation in one of the meetings which took place when 30 people were shortlisted, and one of the baby bells who were partnering one of the Indian blue chip companies gave me a card and said, "You know, while you got a license, and we are shocked that we are not having any of these 8 licenses at that time for metros, here's my card. It's a game for the big boys. When are you ready to sell? Give me a call."
So that was your motivation while being written off.
And then rest is history, as they call it. I never called them back.
Some of your friends describe you as a novel, and they say you are a thriller, yet not knowing what the next chapter would be like. Would you agree to that description?
Yeah, for me, life has been like that. It's been great innings. If I were to roll back and say, will we play it time over again? Definitely.
Let me put it differently. Are you unpredictable and nobody knows what your next move would be, both personally and professionally?
You know, unpredictable may not be the right, correct description.
I thought so.
Yeah. But sure enough, as it should be, nobody plays their hands completely, and that's the way it should be, both professionally and personally.
You've tried your hand at many things: cycle parts, medicine capsules, and even generators. Take me through those times before you really arrived.
You know, when we were growing up in Ludhiana, there were only 2 things: bicycle and, you know, woolen garments. We were not very bright students, so if you were not joining politics, entrepreneurship was the natural corollary of things to be done in that city. And so we started manufacturing cycle parts at that time. Then moved into to Delhi. Sunil moved in 79, I moved in 80. And then we dabbled in a whole lot of commodities. So from generators to resin to wood. So we were, you know, whatever came our way. 85, the telecom started, and in between, we had partnership with one of the North-based house, United, to manufacture capsules. Very different line, but we wanted to get into manufacturing. A very tough one. But once the telecom started in 85, when we started the push-button phones, then the whole focus shifted to telecom.
But tell me, weren't you nervous, having no experience, having no fallback in that sense? Weren't all 3 of you brothers nervous of venturing into something which was so challenging and technical?
You know, we as I said, we had some run for 3-4 years before it started, and we knew that the technology was coming. We were already assembling, not manufacturing, but assembling. But we started then manufacturing post 85. Honestly speaking, I don't think that was much challenging time, but having that 53 license were in the marketplace, I think the marketplace was challenging.
Your passion, maybe a strong word, was politics. Looking back, do you think it was a childhood dream which was perhaps crushed or unfulfilled? Because your father said no politics for my kids?
No, I think, your passions also change with times and with your age. I was very passionate to be a sportsman, actually. To be honest, that was my passion. Till you realize that it's not taking you anywhere because, that's the way it was at that time. And politics was my interest more than passion, but it still remains as interest. Sports remains as my interest as well. But passion is now work.
Would you ever, given a chance, would you ever consider joining politics?
No question.
Are you sure?
100%.
Why?
No, that ship is, or that is taken past. No politics.
In your spare time, you are busy pumping up iron and you also love dogs. Tell me about both.
No, I like to be physically fit. So I've been a sportsman, so you overnight can't change that. You just, change your way to keep your health. I mean, it's for health reasons. And I think that sports is a must. It brings a lot of character, a lot of discipline. Sports is a great leveler. So today, while I don't play sports, but I do other stuff, I do gym. I've been very fond, passionate for dogs since my childhood.
At a personal level, your parents have been a great influence. Who are the other people who have influenced you in life, both personally and professionally?
In sports journey, I think Roger Federer is a great example. I mean, you see from a brat, if you see his earlier childhood, he was a complete brat on the court, turning into a complete icon. My brother Sunil, I mean, while we are friends, we are brothers, he brings a lot on the table. You learn a lot from him. My parents, of course, my father particularly and my mother, taught us the values, who taught us how things should be despite what you have or you don't have. You got to be more careful when you have. When you don't have, people don't even bother. It's more important when you have.
Going back to your family, Bharti is not your family name but an adopted name. So tell me about that, take me through that. Why and how?
It is a family name now. For us, this generation. It was not a family name from my father's side. It was because my father came from a different background from my mother, and it was intercaste marriage, and I'm talking about those days when things were so different. They both were outcasted by both set of parents, and that's where my father chose that, the surname brings so much on the table.
And takes away a lot.
And takes away huge. And he was very progressive, so was my mother. They didn't believe in caste, religion. And when the first one's, offspring was born, my father said he will not carry the name because it will then denote what caste or whatever religion he's coming. So he must carry something. And Bharti meant Indian, and my father came from that moment. So that's how Bharti came. And as we passed our college, and it was only Bharti which was a surname, so there's no Mittal.
So how did Mittal stage a comeback then?
Well, we moved to Delhi. My father was here as being a parliamentarian, so he was here. As we moved around, so it just became that, we just extended it. Then it became from that to, Bharti became middle name and Mittal became that. Just to carry also, the father's name. But Bharti remained as the core for us.
Of late, you've been speaking about artificial intelligence and the regulation and the red lines drawn. What are your apprehensions?
I always believe technology needs to be adopted in the right spirit, for the right causes, for the right reasons. And the more we will resist, the more it will damage. So we should prepare ourselves to any changes that happen across the globe. Cause of worry should be, how do we retrain, reskill our people to adopt those technologies? Every new technology that came, people said, jobs are going to be lost. When computers came in, people said, what's going to happen? The typewriters are gone, the typists are gone. No, it doesn't happen like that. So all I say is that we have to make sure that we train our people, we have the boundary lines, because artificial intelligence also plays a role in the lives of people, which we need to manage it well.
In fact, what you've said is we should adopt it, but we should be watchful. Yes. Just explain that to me.
Many times the bots will be playing their role, and AI bots will be playing a role much greater than is being played humanly. So all I said was that we have to make sure that there are, as the data protection law is coming as we see, we must have a body which will look into, is it impactful? Is it the right impact? Is it going to the right direction? It is working the right way. So all I said was we must adopt it, we must read it, we must watch it carefully, but surely have some red lines drawn towards it.
What do you think could be the pitfalls and the dangers?
No, it's an ongoing game. Honestly speaking, it's too early to predict on that lines.
Your brother turns vegetarian every time a new project is on the anvil. What about you? Do you have any such fads?
No, I don't. I'm more of I am a spiritual guy, so I have my own thought process in a way. But no, I don't get into, that side of the line as he does.
What are the memories of your formative years? Those which you treasure, those which you would want erased?
I think we are a normal childhood, I would say. Coming from a small town, coming from a family which was political, was also challenging in a way, but quite learning in a way to understand how one needs to be, protecting and understanding people. It's a great knowledge when you're part of a political side. The judgment of people comes very differently, but inherently.
In your years of growing up, have there been, oh God, never again moments?
I had to think that means none. I don't think so. There a moment of, oh my gosh, never again.
People know so much about the Mittal brothers, Sunil, you, Rajan. Which is the Rajan Mittal people do not know? Or the Rajan Bharti Mittal people do not know?
I could be rigid taking my stance. So sometimes obstinate, but if I feel that this is something I have conviction, even if it means losing something which is closer, even to probably lose a friend, I'm willing to sacrifice that.
And finally, the person you yourself are trying to discover within you.
There's always a discovery, I wanted to always, as a child, that's one thing, yes, I would say, I was always wanted to learn some musical instrument. It's always my desire. And saxophone is my favorite instrument. I tried my hand in COVID, just pre-COVID. And then it just went for COVID came, no teacher would come. Discovery for life must be there. And if discovery for life is there, you'll always want to discover and something will crop up. The eventual kind of, I would say, parting, if I have to say, is be alive, wish to learn.
Rajan Bharti Mittal, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for taking all the questions.
Thank you. Thanks.